This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Ash, Christopher Mitchell, and 2/12th Trooper. The time has come, and there is no way to run from it, leaving Metal to struggle with the ultimate struggle, the likes of which he has never known before. What to get Sonic for his birthday. Normally, this would not be an issue, as his doppelganger is never stationary long enough to host any form of birthday gathering for which presents would be socially expected, though this year, Tails has taken it upon himself to plan a surprise party for his best friend. And as part of his friend circle, Metal and his fellow Scrapniks are invited. Unfortunately, none of them are any more adept at planning birthday presents than he is, leading Metal to approach this problem as only a machine can, by analysing Sonic's most frequently used words to see if that can give him any insight, though it turns out that in order the top three are Eggman, Fast, and Tails, none of which can be given as gifts. Deeming this fruitless, the android instead recalls the old adage that the best gifts are ones that you yourself would be happy to receive. To that end, when everyone gathers for the picnic party, Metal presents Sonic with a can of frictionless joint lubricant to ensure he can operate at peak efficiency while moving at high speeds, with this honestly just confusing Sonic, though figuring it's a robot thing, he accepts it with a smile and moves on. With this particular piece of birthday protocol successfully navigated, Metal then joins the other guests, watching them eat chili dogs and fawn over the cake Cream and her mother Vanilla made. Metal is even pleasantly surprised to see that Blaze and Silver have made the trip from the Soul Dimension and future for the occasion, with the trio chatting for a while as the two visitors can't shake the feeling they've met before. Through this discussion, Metal is pleased to learn that both his friends' worlds have been at peace since he last saw them, with Blaze having put the Soul Emeralds to good use ensuring her dimension remains safe, while Silver reports that Eggman Negro has been imprisoned for his crimes against all their timelines and realities, so they won't have to worry about him ever again. Due to Metal having played a pivotal part in both these victories, the Cat and Hedgehog are quick to thank him once again, the android nodding that it was his pleasure, though this is about all he gets out, as at that moment a gust of wind buffets the partygoers, scattering the food and causing them all to look up at something in the sky that should not be there, a monster seemingly made out of void itself, with several large clock faces sticking out of it. Having been a member of the group long enough to recognize a new enemy when he sees one, Metal looks to Sonic as if to wordlessly ask whether they should fight, though before any plan can be made, the same gale force wind picks back up again, this time sucking them all towards the beast as portals bloom in front of it. Desperately, Metal calls out for Emerald, telling him to use his thrusters to fight the pull, though unfortunately it is already too late, as the Gizoid has been sucked into a portal, while Metal's own jet engines cannot keep him from the same fate. So the last thing he sees before pure whiteness consumes his vision is Sonic yelling at this monster to give back his friends. In the wake of this, there is only the white void, completely devoid of stimuli, with Metal somewhat concernedly running tests on all his senses to ensure they haven't been critically damaged. However, upon finding them to be functional, he concludes this must be a subset of the monster's powers, with the most logical response being to put his non-essential functions into power saver mode and await whatever comes next. Fortunately, he is not kept waiting for long, as 1,799 seconds later, his visual, auditory, and haptic senses all detect something at the same time, and so come back online, revealing that instead of a totally white void, Metal is instead in a mostly white void, as behind him stands a portal adorned with ornamentation similar to the future version of Stardust Speedway, and in front of him stands two sets of Sonics and Tailses staring at him, with one pair being their current iteration, and the other resembling the Fox and Hedgehog as he first met them. Curiously, Metal questions what has happened during his time offline, and whether the others are safe, with modern Tails explaining they seem to be in some sort of alternate dimension with links to Sonic's memories, since they've already come across a few of these portals that allow them to visit significant moments from their past. For some reason, each of these portals also has one of their friends frozen in front of it, with both Sonics needing to relive the memory in order to unfreeze them, even though many of these are from the smaller Sonic's future. So far, the two Blue Bloods have managed to rescue the two Tailses, Amy, Knuckles, Emerald, and now Metal, with modern Sonic laughing that he'll have Metalhead know he was the biggest pain in the butt to rescue, since he had to relive their race on Stardust Speedway. He'd forgotten what a jerk the bot was back then, using his Ring Sparkfield and Overdrive to try and cheat. While meant to some good-natured ribbing between friends, the younger Sonic is evidently not amused, his eyes having never left Metal since he unfroze, and while he does not say a word, his gaze makes it abundantly clear that he does not trust the green-eyed android, having presumably come from a time before he left Eggman's service. Not for the first time, this reminds the Blue Bot of his last conversation with his creator about whether one's nature can truly change, as he reflects on the version of himself the Sonics just had to confront, as well as the nature of these two Sonics and Tailses. To his eye, despite the passage of time, they remain fundamentally the same, as the Hedgehogs are equally excitable and eager to run ahead on their quest to save their friends, while the Yellow Foxboy duo are quick to voice their support, as well as to discuss the possible scientific implications of this void world they have dubbed White Space. Is this what Eggman had meant about one's nature being immutable even if their circumstances are altered? And if so, does this mean he is still the same machine he was back on Stardust Speedway? Perhaps further observation of the time-displaced doppelgangers would have been useful in finding an answer to this question, though unfortunately Metal is not given a chance, so when he offers to go with them, the Tails decline, stating that only the pair of Sonics can enter these portals, so the best way he can help is to wait with the others and make sure they aren't turned into statues again, a request the Bluebot agrees to, even if he feels it is an illogical waste of his abilities when he is faster than the foxes and so could keep better pace with the hedgehogs as they traverse white space. Nonetheless, he at least endeavors to use this time logically, traveling back the way his rescuers came and approaching Amy, since as one of his oldest and most emotionally savvy friends, he believes she is the best suited to discuss what is bothering him. In the interest of transparency and as a testament to the trust they have built, Metal holds nothing back, even divulging his conversation in space with Eggman and the fact he was sorely tempted to kill him, a secret he had up until now shared with no one. Comfortingly, Amy tells Metal he shouldn't listen to a word that rotten old Eggman says, since he's come a long way from the heartless android he used to be, a claim which Metal does appreciate, though it is not enough to completely assuage the fears, as he grimly wonders whether the Sonics will have to contend with any of the other times his malicious actions have caused them strife over the years, such as their fight on the Death Egg, the sacking of Scrapnik Island, or even the final confrontation with Metal Madness, when he almost killed everyone he holds dear. Such thoughts are deeply troubling, though Metal ironically does not have time to stew on them, as before long word reaches him and the rest of Sonic's friends that the two blue blurs have located the monster that brought them here, and are on their way to confront it. Wanting to help, the group of friends likewise rush to the beast's location, finding not just it, but also the past and present incarnations of Dr. Eggman, who it seems are the ones controlling this monster they call the Time Eater, with the modern one having supposedly found it during his exile in space, a claim which makes a part of Metal regret not killing him like he'd suggested, since then none of this would ever have happened. However, now is not the time for regret, as Metal instead joins his friends in raising their voices to cheer on the two Sonics as they confront the Doctors and their monster, making use of the Chaos Emeralds from various memories to go super, with the power of two Super Sonics being too much for even a primordial being like the Time Eater to withstand. In a flash, white space is gone, with Metal and everyone else finding themselves back at Sonic's party. Even the Sonic and Tails from the past are here, with it seeming as though they were transported to the exact moment before the Time Eater appeared, as everything is still pristine. With no monster to worry about, things go as they ought to have from the start, with lots of food and laughter, as everyone does their best to celebrate Sonic's special day, or should it be Sonic's plural? Either way, a great time is had by all, so that when a time portal opens up for the younger Sonic and Tails to go home, they both seem almost reluctant to say goodbye. Nonetheless, after sharing their farewells with everyone, the duo do depart, and as Metal locks eyes with the Sonic of the past, he sees a difference to his gaze, as while he plainly still does not view the robot as a friend, perhaps now he could do so in time. Following this, peace resumes, with Metal returning to his life on Scrapnik Island, his mind still on the concerns raised in white space, though at least this time he does not isolate himself, instead talking to his family, with it being Emerald who makes the best case for change, pointing out that his father watched him change from a mindless slave programmed only to serve the one he was linked with, to what is now before his eyes, so unless he still views him as that hollow puppet he found in Eggman's base, then logically he must admit that genuine change is possible, with it therefore standing to reason that his father has also changed. Having no argument to counter this, Metal concedes, though for once it is a loss he is happy to accept, all the while marveling at how his son never fails to amaze him, demonstrating logic, compassion, and wisdom in equal measure. It is around this time that the events of Lost World occur, though for the most part Metal stays out of it, having not been present with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy when they attempted to rescue the abducted animals. As a result, he does not travel to the Lost Hex, though when the Zeddy leader Zavok activates his extractor which begins siphoning the life energy of the Earth, including its inhabitants, he and the other Scrapniks rise to the occasion. As inorganic beings, they are not subject to the extractor's effects, meaning they can act without issue, and so set to work doing all they can to rescue those in danger and sheltering them in the depths of Scrapnik Island, since the former hull plating of the Death Egg serves as a good shield against the extractor's effects, massively minimizing the casualties. One consequence of this is that after so long in self-imposed isolation for their own safety, the world at large finally becomes aware of the Scrapniks in their home, though considering the circumstances under which they learn it, the bots are hailed as heroes, with most having no issue looking past the fact that they are former badniks. As a result, it is not long at all before efforts are being made to bring the island into the wider global community, with some people even wanting to move there, while a few of the Scrapniks consider settling down elsewhere now that they know they do not have to fear retribution from the organics for what they once were. However, this is not to say that all associated with the Eggman Empire are deserving of amnesty, as one evening Rouge contacts Metal to inform him that if he's still engaging in that little hobby of raiding Eggman bases, she's found a new one hidden deep in Mystic Jungle that looks like it's housing something important. Recognizing this likely means it can't be good, the Blue Bot sets out at once, with it taking him very little time at all to race to the coordinates Rouge provided. Though this does not mean there are no impediments, as waiting for him at the perimeter are a squad of jackals, all of whom declare their intent to destroy this interloper in the name of their captain and their new client, Dr. Eggman. At once, Metal prepares for a fight, though as you will soon learn, these mercenaries are not nearly on his level after years of fighting giant robots and world-ending monsters, with it taking only a single blow to down each of them. However, still intent on proving to himself as much as anyone who might be watching that he is not the killbot he once was, he makes sure to pull his punches, so the while Jackal squad are defeated, they are not killed. Nonetheless, this still draws the attention of their captain, a black and white canine with heterochromia and a glowing red sword, who on Eggman's orders attempts to strike Metal down from behind with a sneak attack. Unfortunately, this is easily blocked by the Blue Bot's black shield, while a simple back elbow to the Jackal's stomach drops him to his knees. Mortified by this loss, the captain barks at Metal to finish him, though turning his green eyes upon the mercenary dog, he refuses, stating that instead he's going to give him some advice and he strongly suggests he heed it. Leave Dr. Eggman's employ while he is still able, and take his squad with him. From personal experience, he can assure the Jackals that the Doctor simply sees them as disposable pawns to throw at his enemies, and then toss aside when they're too broken to be of any further use to him, so if they're smart, they'll leave now before they wind up in worse trouble than they're currently in. At first, it looks as though the captain intends to scream at Metal, to declare that he's different, though when his squad mates speak up, urging him to listen to the robotic hedgehog and go back to the way things were before he touched that crazy gem, the Jackal leader reluctantly relents, laying two fingers against his earpiece to inform Eggman that they're finished, and then ordering Jackal squad to move out, since he imagines they'll have badniks on their tails soon, his tone suggesting that he relishes the chance to tangle with the mad scientist forces. Sadly, not all of Metal's endeavors that night go so smoothly, as when the speed machine makes his way inside his creator's base intent on tracking down whatever Rouge had been concerned about, he finds the place stripped, suggesting this new project must be so important to the Doctor that he simply could not bear to have it halted prematurely. As a result, Metal keeps his ear to the ground over the next few months, always on the lookout for some hint of Eggman's new evil scheme, though ultimately it does not come, with his focus eventually being drawn back to assisting Sigma in opening Scrapnik Island up to the wider world, alongside Emerald Mecha and Scrap. It is during one of these days, while helping attune the Scrapnik Island warp point to some of the others around the world, in this case the one in Mystic Ruins near Station Square, that Metal receives a joint call with Shadow from a very worried Tails who seems almost surprised to be receiving a response. Pragmatically, the Blue Bot asks his friend what this is about, with the Fox Boy explaining that he wanted to make sure that it wasn't really them he's seeing attacking a city, with it being a big relief that it's not, since that would also mean Shadow's gone evil again and the Metal Commander's back. This immediately gets the two recipients' attention, with Shadow stating they'll head to Tails' coordinates right away, while Metal concurs, though before he leaves, he requests help from Emerald as well as Scrap, Sigma, and Mecha, since the latter trio were essential in taking down the Metal Commander last time. Together the five bots then take the warp point as far as it will carry them, before racing the rest of the way, since even in the shock of Tails' news they had not forgotten what he had said about there being a city under attack, so time is of the essence. When they arrive, the team of Scrapniks find Eggman in a large mech resembling himself and seemingly powered by a magenta ruby, with Metal wondering if this is the one the Jackals were talking about. However, it seems the Doctor is not alone, as with him are Chaos, Shadow, and the Metal Commander, along with a big red bruiser who Sonic helpfully explains as Zavok as he pinballs between him and Chaos. From the looks of things, the four villains are under the Mustachioed Menace's command, as upon spotting his wayward creations, Eggman orders his minions to destroy them along with the Blue Rat. Figuring this is probably more time shenanigans, the bots join Sonic and a newly arrived Shadow in the fight, with Sigma instructing his friends to be careful not to inflict lethal injuries, since there's a chance they could erase Shadow or Metal from existence if they killed their past selves, or maybe even create a time paradox that could have catastrophic consequences for reality itself. Having no desire to see either outcome, Metal decides to be the one to confront the Commander, while Scrap backs him up, though to his surprise when they lock fists, the green-eyed heroic iteration finds his old evil self rather lifeless and generic as a combatant, like a puppet carrying out basic instructions to fight, while using none of the personality and technique he'd developed as a fighter even up to that point in his history. Figuring that maybe this is just him overestimating his own former abilities, Metal asks Scrap as one of his most frequent foes, and thus someone who knows his fighting style well, whether he also sees this anomaly, to which the robotic echidna nods, with this being enough to convince the Blue Bot that something is definitely amiss. Overhearing this, Mecha decides to test a theory, and so putting his large glowing eye to use, he deactivates his sensory subroutines, so instead of seeing his surroundings, he instead perceives as a detailed string of code that only a mechanical mind could comprehend, with this turning up something no organic eye could detect, as the rusted bot informs his brother that these duplicates are reading as energy, not matter, suggesting they're virtual reality constructs. However, this is not all, as each is drawing power from the gem on Eggman's mech, causing Tails to gasp that of course it makes perfect sense, while Sonic grins that it sounds like Mech is saying if they smash the gem those blasts from the past go bye-bye. Nodding, the former Scourge of Angel Island confirms this is likely correct, with reaching Eggman therefore being their highest priority. In an eager tone, Emerald tells his uncle that he can handle that, with he, Scrap, Shadow and Sigma squaring off with the Metal Commander Chaos, Phantom Shadow and Zavok respectively, in order to buy time for Metal, Mecha and Sonic to go for the Doctor. Having been the closest, Metal is the first to strike Eggman, punching the gem and in turn being flooded with a strange sensation that takes a moment to quantify. Unfortunately, in that time the evil scientist is quick to strike back, manifesting a magenta laser and blasting Metal point blank before he can even get his shield up, while sardonically sneering that it's long past time he was melted down for scrap. As when his friends cry out in horror, that when the laser beam fades, Metal is still standing, albeit with more than a few dents and scuffs, a fact which amazes everyone as surely at such close range he should have been deactivated permanently. Unsure why he was not, Metal runs a quick diagnostic, with it revealing this is largely in part to absorbing a portion of the ruby's energy, with this likely being what this strange phenomenon was before. Relaying this to his allies, Metal watches as Sonic spin dashes into the gym, grinning that Egghead must have finally scrambled his brain if he left a power-up for them on the outside of his mech, though as he will learn, this is only a power-up for some of them. So when the Hedgehog makes contact with the ruby, he is instead zapped with crimson discharge that makes him grunt in pain. Worriedly, Tails urges his best friend to get up, though gritting his teeth, Sonic assures his little buddy that he's fine, before falling back and allowing Mecha to land a kick on the gem with his wheel foot that renders no negative consequences. Figuring this means the power-up is reserved for robots, Metal tells Sonic to avoid touching it again. Though smirking they already figured that one out on his own, the Blue Blow requests that his two doppelgangers form up with him for a team attack to finish the Eggster off, before he uses whatever power that thing gives machines to kick their butts. Nodding, the two bots once designed to kill Sonic instead take their places on either side of him, then as one, they charge. While this mech suit might be able to handle the force of one speedster's hits, 3 is a different story, with the trio of Sonics punching cleanly through its steely hull. Seeing that the day is lost, the mech's head capsule then bursts open, allowing the Eggmobile to eject, though before its crane arm can recover the ruby, Metal dashes upwards, snatching it from the broken body and immediately feeling its power course through him. It would be a lie to say that a part of Metal does not find this intoxicating, being similar to the strength he feels when he goes super, though also distinct, like he is connected to the motherboard of reality, and it would only take the smallest effort to impart his will upon it. Perhaps Eggman can see something of these thoughts behind Metal's eyes, or else surmises what he is thinking from his innate understanding of his creation, though either way, the sight of Metal in possession of the ruby clearly terrifies the Doctor, with him making the prudent choice to cut his losses and flee, though not before vowing to get his revenge on them all. In the wake of this flight, all eyes turn to Metal, who is still holding the ruby, with many wondering what he intends to do with it. Though, when Emerald plucks up the courage to ask, the green-eyed android answers that he intends to take it home and analyze it under more stable conditions, before placing it on the ground and relinquishing the sense of power. And with that, the battle is over, as the phantom copies faded as soon as the Egg Mech lost power, leaving those who are watching from the side or else cowering in their homes free to come forth and cheer for their saviors, especially the brave robots who saw through Eggman's tricks, which was instrumental to driving him off. As this happens, Metal stares up at the place his creator vanished, musing that it seems the Doctor was wrong, as he and his brethren have changed and grown into the exact opposite of the instruments of pain and terror he designed them to be, with this putting any lingering doubts about his nature to bed at last. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.